Hey there, folks, and welcome to the brand new director's cut of the worst Yakuza style video. That might not be what it's called, but I only have about 3 seconds to make this new and improved set of cutscenes, or rather, additions to the narrative of my video, before my boss finds out that I'm breaking schedule and making a new piece of content, and then fires me and kills me. In addition to this wonderful new licensed music, the additions to this video include new and improved graphics, new and improved sound, and a brand new English dub for these new moments. I hope you enjoy this celebration of my channel's first real pop-off, and thank you very much for watching.
An oft-asked question within the Yakuza community is which playable style is the best? It's easy to see why. There's plenty of good options to choose from. A question you'll see asked less often is which playable style is the worst? On the one hand, both of these questions are of the most subjective variety imaginable, but on the other hand, there are some usual suspects when it comes to choosing the worst one. Saejima style in Yakuza 4 for lacking the options that 5 would eventually add. Kiryu's Reborn style in 6 and Kiwami 2 for how slow they are. Not to mention they introduced the player base to the idea of hit counts. Shinada style in Yakuza 5 for being so cosmically perfect that nobody can comprehend how finely tuned and expertly crafted it is. All of these have been called the worst for one reason or another. If you saw my last video, you know I'm no stranger to hot takes regarding this series. That Shinada comment was only half joking, for example. So how about I add one more to the pile? I think. I'm not actually sure how the fanbase at large feels about Gaiden. Everyone loves the ending, I know that much, and I think it handles that part pretty well. It did, in fact, make me cry, but that's about everything positive I have to say about the game. I hate the story, I hate the characters, I hate the Coliseum, I hate the minigames, but more than all of that, I hate the gameplay. It takes everything Lost Judgment did excellently and ruins it all in one fell swoop. But more than that, it mangled the Reborn style beyond recognition and dipped its corpse in molasses. So even if you, like me, enjoyed the gameplay of Yakuza 6, this will not hit the same at all. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the style that they ruined Yakuza style to make room for. The style that they were selling Gaiden on. The style that every trailer was hyping up beyond anything it could possibly live up to. For my money, the worst playable style in Yakuza is Agent style. There's no way I could lay out all my complaints about Agent style in one massive rant, so I'm going to separate this video into chapters. I'll get into the deeper stuff further into the video, and along with that, I'll touch on the more technical aspects of Gaiden's gameplay as a whole when appropriate. This is going to be about as deep a dive as you can possibly get. So hopefully that helps to keep things coherent, because in addition to the footage, I also recorded some live commentary to help illustrate my frustration with the style. Scripting out some words to scream at my microphone is out of style. I wouldn't enjoy it, neither would you. So hopefully screaming at my television with a mic recording is a little bit more acceptable. Be warned, as Gaiden has been known to have negative effects on the human psyche. I love Yakuza! Gaiden! Let's do the stairs heat action! Oops! It makes you do things you don't want to do. I'm going to in real life. It makes you say things you don't want to say. Everything about this game is terrible. It makes you say things you do want to say, but probably shouldn't. If you like Nishitani, you're a apologist. His character exists to be a rapist. So, sorry. And just for clarity's sake, no, I don't think that. You get to like characters who do bad things, even if they have no personality and only exist to be attractive queerbait. Anyways, let's get into it. Starting about as surface level as we can, there's 3 things that I want to discuss to start out, and to get the most style-relevant one out of the way first, the stance. Agent style presents itself as a Muay Thai adjacent fighting style. The most notable users of Muay Thai in the series are Pamuk from Yakuza 1, Katsuya from Yakuza 5, and Higashi from Judgment. As you can see from their movesets, it's a fighting style focused on powerful strikes with limbs and joints, which also allows for plenty of defense and evasion. Agent style does possess these properties, and its stance using a similar positioning of the arms and legs suggests as much. However, Agent style also employs a large amount of grappling techniques with the goal of getting the opponent on the ground. Seeing as this style was taught by the Daidoji faction, a secret organization that very much doesn't want its presence to be discovered by the general populace, it makes sense that their signature fighting style would revolve around ending the fight as soon as possible, whether it be through direct overwhelming force or through a focus on dexterity to put the opponent in an unfavorable position. This focus on takedowns and submission is suggested by the open hands. The second element of presentation I want to discuss is the style's theme, obedience. Standards for quality with Yakuza soundtracks are very similar to the Sonic the Hedgehog series, in that there's so many great ones that to be good is to be subpar. Thankfully, Yakuza has been pretty good about meeting that standard, and while on the whole I don't enjoy most of Gaiden's soundtrack, obedience is a standout inclusion. Reinforces Kiryu's submissive status to the Daidoji, both in its composition being primarily made of electronic instruments rather than Kiryu's standard electric guitar, and in its use of a simple, subdued melody, letting the percussion take center stage for most of the song. That second half explosion works both as an expression of Kiryu's frustration with his newfound role, and in making the song pop the fuck off. Usually I'm not for the just electronic tracks in this series, but this is a happy exception. So far so good, right? Well, the last part of the style's presentation is one of its worst flaws, and it's a fundamental part of using it, in any given moment. Like most other games, Gaiden uses colored light trails to emphasize the combos of both of its styles, but unlike most other games, these light trails are incredibly bright. I do like the color of the trails. Agents reminds me a bit of Ono's heat trails in Yakuza 5, and I like the added scale pattern for Yakuza style. It makes sense that they'd want to show them off. But they're so bright, it's to the point that they look garish, and especially on Agent style, it makes it hard to see what exactly Kiryu is doing at any given moment. That wouldn't be such a problem if this were a Legacy style, and we've already memorized its moveset, but with it being newly introduced in this game, it makes it all the more difficult to memorize your combos and finishers when you're first starting out. This is then compounded by the combos and finishers themselves. And speaking of, it's about time we started talking about the actual combat. When it comes to actually using Agent style, things drop off in quality much faster than they do on the surface. It can look as good as it wants, but what matters most is how it feels to play. And how does it feel? In a word, sloppy. Take the basic square hit combo, for instance. It's already weird for having 5 strikes. The only styles I can remember that do that are Tanimura's upgraded style and Slugger style, but it's also unlike those in that it borrows the main gimmick of Tiger style from the Judgment games. Each square button press equates to 2 strikes. These two things combined already makes for a somewhat disorienting experience, even if you've already played the previous games. Not that a style that feels new is bad, but I haven't gotten to the real problem of these combos. The strikes themselves. You can see for yourself, they aren't very distinct from one another. Hell, 2 and 3 look exactly the same if you're not looking at them closely. And the way the third flows into the fourth makes the two feel like one fluid motion. But it doesn't sound like much of a criticism, does it? Compare these strikes to Tiger's square strikes. They don't flow into each other quite like Agent's strikes, but because of that, each square press feels more distinct. Even when mashing square, you can always tell which strike you're on, and which finisher you'll do if you press triangle. The individual animations are also easier to tell apart. Not so with Agent. The basic heavy attack is great. I love a good palm strike, and while it isn't standard for Muay Thai, it fits perfectly as a submission tactic, or rather, as a means of stunning the opponent or opening their guard. Now, let's move on to the finishers. I feel like I said everything I want to say about them during the recording process, so I'm going to hand it over to myself for this next part. Okay, so I guess I'll talk about the finishers. Don't like the finishers. I like maybe like 2 of them. Don't like them. That's one of them that I like. The square triangle, it's fine. I love how he rechambers the kick. You can barely fucking see it. Okay, we'll talk about that instead. The heat trails. I hate the heat trails so much. Again, I'm talking about like dangling keys in your face. I can't see what he's doing here.
Yeah.
He's doing a really cool thing with this kick where he like re-chambers it after he's done while keeping his stance. That takes a lot of coordination and balance to do, especially when you're doing it that fast. I used to take Taekwondo classes, so, you know, I can tell you, this is difficult. This is not an easy thing to do. You need at least like a month's worth of training to be able to do that with as much form and consistency as he is able to. Well, this is the fun video. This one. We're getting at the problems with this one. I guess I like the swipe across. I don't know exactly what that does for you, but that jumping kick. This jumping kick. This one right here. That one does not make sense unless you hit an enemy with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how is he turning around? Like, it makes sense if he bounces off an enemy, but just on its own, this animation doesn't make sense. It's not very impactful, and it's not even functional sometimes, as we will discuss later. And, again, you know how I was talking about, like, submission arts with this style?
Yeah.
Agent is, like, a way of swiftly and efficiently putting an opponent on the ground. That's what I think of when I think of an agent-focused style. How is this supposed to do that? What does jumping around and kicking have to do with that? Get on to the third one. Okay. The problems become worse here. Now, this I really like. I used to not like that. I thought it looked kind of silly.
Yeah.
But especially when, again, talking about the Muay Thai influence, an elbow strike like that is super effective. It's really good, and it's something practical. Forcing out an elbow like that is a good way to hit someone's chin. It's a good way to strike them right in the face if they walk into it.
Yeah.
It's a good strike. It's textbook. But that. What is that? In what world is this a good move for someone to do? What is bailing out on like a tuck and roll and kicking up into the sky?
Low attack.
It's not a low attack though. It's up at like... Hang on. Get closer to me. Oh my god. Even I'm still having trouble like telling which strike I'm on. But look, that hits at like his face.
Yeah.
See? That's like at his chin. That's at his neck. That is not a low strike. It could fake someone out. But an agent style shouldn't be about faking out your opponent with large moves like that. Again, it's a submission art. But now we're getting to the worst cases. Again, agent, it's good until you realize it's not trying to be good. And so I genuinely believe that everything the style does well is a fluke. And that's another thing too. Agent's moves take so long to execute. You are going to find yourself getting knocked out of combos more often in agent style than any other style in any Yakuza game. But that kick, the 4-hit combo. Holy crap. 3, 4. That. It's a. Ah! 2, 3, 4. This is fine. This is weird. What is that? What is that? The fucking knee dust at the end of it. It's not even like James Bondish. James Bond wouldn't do something like that. What is he? Why is he getting so angry for? What's your problem?
Where's my knife?
This is fine. Again, it's like you can barely see what he's doing, but I think he's like doing a dual like elbow strike down like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what exactly he's hitting with that, but the fundamental idea of it is fine. This turning kick, the spinning back kick is fine. That's not it. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's the thing. They try to keep you so constantly distracted with all this random shit happening so you don't think about their games and realize how much downhill they've gone in quality. But this is fine. That's a little weird. I don't know if I like that very much. I think that, in general, turning strikes like that are kind of stupid. But this is horrible. The knee dust after it is stupid. It implies, a sense of, cockiness and pride, I guess, in his style. that I don't think Kiryu's ever really had, you know?
Yeah.
He's never been the type of guy to show off in anything that he does. Everything that Kiryu does in combat is for the point of taking out an enemy. And in a submission-based martial art, you'd think that the same thing applies, but I don't know. I don't know if like it's meant to be understood that the knee dust is like a practical thing because he actually like fell on the ground, or if it's a tactic to like get the enemy riled up, or if it's an actual part of that move that like the Daidoji agents have to learn. Like, make sure after you do the big flippy kick, make sure you dust off your knee. This will make the enemy riled up or whatever. It's stupid and it's so showy and it's so flashy for a style that's supposed to be low-key. If you have a combo that is this low-key, why are you doing jumping spinning kicks? But that said, the last one, it's fine. It hints at the problems that you'll have with the extreme heat combo. I don't like big sweeping kicks like that, especially because they take so long to execute. In that time, the enemy has already hit you like 5 times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hang on. What's the first hit? That elbow strike. Elbow strike is fine. Big spinning kicks, absolute no-no. But let's get this guy out of here. The down strike is also fine, but I wish that he would just kick. Why does he have to go down and punch them? Also, Yakuza style isn't that showy, and it's in this game. Hi, welcome back to the scripted part. Last thing to talk about in this section is grabbing. Agent's grab puts the enemy in a chokehold, but unlike most Yakuza games, you cannot switch your hold on the enemy. This is unfortunate, but it's made up for by having some pretty good button options. Square kicks the enemy away, which is easily the best of your choices. The enemy can collide with others, and it's excellent for creating space or for interrupting an enemy that's about to attack. It also comes with some other benefits, but we'll talk about that later. Triangle is not very good. It fits perfectly with Agent's theming, but as a move, it doesn't do much damage. And considering it only hits one enemy, damage is what matters for this one. The throw also fits pretty well stylistically, but it takes a bit too long to come out for me to confidently put it on the same level as Square. Plus its hitbox isn't as predictable, so it sits pretty comfortably between the two. That said, on to the next section. With basic combat covered, let's look at all the moves that aren't just pressing one button at a time. The sway attacks, dodge attacks, whatever you want to call them. All of those have the same problems as the finishers. Consider Yakuza's sway attacks. I don't like the spinny kicks replacing the uppercuts from Dragon Style, but they match style with substance. They don't feel like they're being overly flashy at the expense of combat effectiveness. Agents absolutely feel like that. Again, what's the benefit in bailing on a side roll just to do a kick that doesn't even come with some special benefit? Do you remember when doing the back sway attack with stun on contact? You remember how Lost Judgment Snake Style had really cool, unique, fitting sway attacks that hit twice and had a chance to stun? Agent could have had something like that, but it just doesn't. What it does have, like Snake Style, is a sway attack mapped to the square button. It flows directly into the square combo too. Pretty good, right? No! This pretty much makes it the 6th hit of the square combo, something I don't think we've gotten in any game before, and for good reason. Now it's even harder to tell which hit of the combo you're on, and to make things even worse, it doesn't even lead into the first finisher. So if you want to quickly move in on an enemy and do that kick, tough luck, you're doing the base heavy attack, which ends your combo, and is a bit more wind up and wind down with not as good range. So you're left that little bit more open in a game with some of the most aggressive enemies in the series. There's also the reverse attacks. Reverse square is fine, it fits with the pattern established with the dodge and the block, and it has fine enough range, but it also doesn't lead into the first finisher, so it ends your combo. The reverse heavy is a low sweep, knocks down on contact, if it connects. We'll talk a bit about that later too, but it looks good, and it mostly works. Both of these moves look fine, and I hope that you like how they look a lot, because they are the only ones Agent Style gets. That's right! Agent has no reverse finishers. It simply rotates Kiryu as fast as possible in a way that neither looks nor feels good. It sort of works for some of the finishers, but when Yakuza style not only has its reverse finishers, but also applies launching properties to some of them, it's hard to feel satisfied with this. Last thing to mention in this section are the running attacks. These ones are unique in that they both look bad, and neither of them fit with Agent's theming. Running square is downright pathetic. You'll want to avoid it at all costs. It takes about a half second on windup, and it doesn't even do anything special when it hits. It's an elbow strike, which is fitting, but a jumping spinning strike that's so showy that it leaves you open in actual in-game combat, not a mind in real life, is never going to be worth using. Triangle is a bit better. A jumping kick is a simple idea. We've seen that plenty of times in the series so far. But again, why is Agent style jumping all over the place? The animation itself doesn't even look that good. It looks like a PS3 animation. The running triangle attack on a downed enemy is way better. I wish this were the only option. More sweeps, less jumpy kicks. And on the subject of jumpy kicks, it's time we move on to what's easily my least favorite part of Agent style. And if you've been paying attention to my complaints, I imagine you already know what it is. What began in Yakuza 6 as a reinvention of Kiryu's dragon spirit that wasn't completely busted, quickly became busted once again when Judgment released. Then Lost Judgment turned it into a tool that's best used for extending and unlocking new combos, which was great. How is it in Gaiden? Pathetic. It still lets you style cancel out of moves whenever you want, but for a multitude of reasons, you don't want to cancel into Agent style. You know how the special combo was mapped to triangle in Judgment so that you don't lose access to your standard one for juggling purposes or just for the sake of not limiting your options for no reason? Gaiden decided to limit your options for no reason. Now you have no choice but to use these stupid giant sweeping attacks that I've made pretty clear have no place in a style like Agent. What's especially weird is that Snake style already laid the groundwork for what Agent's Extreme Heat could have been. Make it focused around grappling, but keep the crowd control factor. Maybe use that big spinny throw that you stole from Yakuza style? Lost Judgment gave each style special Extreme Heat grabs. Why not use the feature you've already made? As long as we're directly comparing this game to Lost Judgment, it's about time I mentioned the Mortal Reversal. Agents looks fine, but it would have been a lot better if it were like cranes or snakes. A really hard kick straight into the enemy's face does the job, but especially for a style with 3 dodges and a pretty big focus on weaving through enemy crowds, making precise, determined strikes that count, why would they just go with a big kick? The elbow follow-up is good though, and we'll talk about this later. There's one more major thing that Extreme Heat does for Agent, and thankfully, it's an addition. A good one. Dodging an attack in Extreme Heat gives you 3 options of retaliation. Square does a series of palm strikes, triangle does a kick over the shoulder, circle does a takedown into an armbar. I mean no exaggeration when I say that these are perfect. They're exactly what I would have wanted the Mortal Reversal to be. In fact, wouldn't this be a great way to iterate on the system of Mortal Reversals in general? Give you different options for which one to use in any given circumstance, give each of them different effects. Square stuns, triangle does more damage, circle puts them in agony. I don't know, that's just spitballing. I'm coming up with these on the spot, and isn't this already a way better idea than what we got in the game? But now that I've gotten everything else out of the way, it's about time that I got to the parts of Agent style that makes it Agent style, and what might be considered its weakest parts. Yeah, I said it. I really don't like using the gadgets. Well, that's not quite true. I like using 2 of them, so I'll start with the positives. Spider is a tendril that comes out of Kiryu's wristwatch and grabs enemies and throws them all over the place. It's awesome. You can upgrade it to get more tendrils, stronger tendrils, and more ways of attacking enemies that you grab with them. I love it. It's something that comes naturally when you make a game like this that's so focused around combat with large groups of enemies. The worst thing that I can say about it is that you can't leave enemies tied up after retracting Spider, or if you can, I don't know how to. I also don't like that it took the Yakuza spinny throw. Like I said, it would have been better utilized in Extreme Heat somewhere. It's really difficult to make it useful, or at least more useful than throwing 5 enemies into 10 more enemies and then kicking all of them with Extreme Heat. But as for Spider as a whole, it's a good idea. Mostly well implemented. Serpent is Jets in your shoes, It's fine, fun when it's willing to work with you, but sort of janky when you want to do anything that's not barreling straight through a crowd of enemies. Even then, if someone hits you on startup, you can just get knocked completely out of it with nothing gained. You can jet through objects to gain heat, which is helpful, but that's a solution to a problem which shouldn't exist in the first place. What else? You can use it as a juggling option. Not to start one, but you can hit an airborne enemy with it. There really isn't much to this gadget. The only reason it's one of the positive ones is because going through enemies just feels good. Which is nice, but I'd prefer if it did a little bit more than that. Now, for the negative ones. Probably hot takes, but let's be honest, who wasn't expecting some hot takes going into this? Hornet is drones. You hold triangle and you summon them in. Now, I haven't mentioned this for the other two, but all of these gadgets work by holding down their respective button. Triangle for Hornet, circle for Spider, cross for Serpent, square for Firefly. This works for Spider and Serpent because they enhance what those buttons already do. Spider grabs. It's on circle. Serpent can evade enemies or be used to close gaps. Put it on dodge. This makes sense. Hornet requires that you hold down the heavy attack button, which means that you can't use heat actions or finishers while you're using it. This applies to the other gadgets as well, but at least with the other two, you're doing things when you hold down the button. With Hornet, you just have to stand there or run around in circles as your drones come out, ever so slowly, one by one. They speed up over time, but is this really what I bought the game for? Am I really gonna play with a style where a fundamental part of its moveset is holding a button and waiting? The drones don't even do much. You can guard to bring them in close and make a kind of shield. But on their own, they'll just fly around randomly and harass some enemies for you. They do more damage the more concentrated they are, but at that point I've just held down a button and ran from enemies to summon something that plays the game for me. Also, they fly away if you switch styles, so if you brought them out, you're either committed to staying with Agent style for the next couple minutes, or you just send them away anyways. What's the point? But, as bad as Hornet is, it doesn't even hold a candle to Firefly. Haha. Like I said, this one is mapped to holding square, and it throws out a cigarette bomb. Everything about this sucks. Again, you're holding down your attack button. So even if you wanted to attack enemies while you're waiting for the gadget to activate, you can't. But even worse than that, Kiryu throws the bomb directly in front of him. You know what that means? It means if you wanted to hit enemies, especially if you wanted to land in the middle of a crowd, you need to stay facing them. And how do you do that? Staying locked on. At least with Hornet, you could maintain distance between yourself and enemies while you wait for the game to play itself. This is just torture. You're slowly walking backwards, holding down the button that you used to hit enemies, waiting for Kiryu to toss out a pitiful little bomb that doesn't even do much damage for how much dedication it requires to use it. And on top of all of that, it's on a timer. So unless you're tossing out 4 or 5 in a row, you need to let go of the button and make sure that you keep the enemies grouped up around the bomb so it actually hurts them. In what universe is all of that setup worth such a minimal payoff? But not to worry, extreme heat changes the effects of gadgets. The two that suck. With Hornet, it brings out all the drones at once, but it uses up a lot of your heat bar to do it. And if you're going to do that anyway, wouldn't you want to be mashing square for the dopamine hits? With Firefly, it puts Kiryu in place and tosses a bomb where you were facing, while he faces the camera and gives a stupid cool guy pose. This gives enemies plenty of time to run up to you and smack you for acting like such a dumbass in the middle of a fight, all while you're standing there waiting for Kiryu to finish his animation and get back to actually fighting the enemies. It does more damage over a wider area, I guess, but again, why would you want to do this rather than actually fight the enemies? It's actively less fun, doesn't give you any good interactivity, and is flat out not very helpful in most instances. Now there's one more thing I want to talk about before I get to the worst stuff I have to mention. Similar to the finishers, I think I said all that I want to say during the recording process, so this chapter will be entirely live commentary. If you've been disagreeing with me through the rest of the video, I imagine you won't be too happy when you see what this part's about. So, talking of looking cool at the cost of player expression, I think it's about time I mentioned the heat actions. Let's get it out of the way. Please, gun heat action?
Did you just beat me?
Yeah. Gun heat action. Looks fine. He shoots him, he disables the gun. It's fine. Will it work on an enemy with weapon? No. Just take those weapons away. That's a juggle setup if you do it by holding a button down. Really good skill-based combat. Here, the cross twist. Are we gonna... Those fucking triangles, dude. The move itself, as I've said with a lot of other agent things, looks fine. But I'd be able to say that with a little more certainty if I could see what was happening! Why would you put a giant fucking triangle on the screen in, like, a move that is all about, like, how limbs twist together? Like, I want to see him smack him in the face if that's what he's doing. I want to see how he winds his arms up like that. Is he crossing him up at the elbows and using that as leverage to throw him down? I'll never know. You'll never know unless they mod out those things, which I hope someone has, because I'll get it instantly. Why would you block us from seeing your own heat action? And I guess as long as we're talking about that, I guess we can do this one. See, you can see what's happening here. Yeah. The heat trail is still super obnoxious, but you can see what he's doing. Come on, dude. Although, I guess if we're talking about seeing what he's doing, I guess I ought to address the elephant in the room. Yeah. Oh! There. Can we talk about this?
It lowers the frame rate.
It lowers the frame rate, which on its face, in a game coming out on next-gen systems, current year, we are running very quickly out of excuses for frame drop. Yeah. I am normally not a stickler for this sort of thing. I'm more than happy playing PS3 games, even if they're not native to the console, just because I sometimes like how lower frame rates make certain games look. That shouldn't be happening. And furthermore, I can't see what he's doing! What? Yo, is that Mr. trying to hit me? Is that a Yakuza reference? I don't want to do the pole move. Are there any walls around here? This one should work. Yeah, I do. Oh, sorry, buddy. Hey, wait. Taunts. Tie one is fine. The glasses one is fine. Need dust again. Whatever. They're fine taunts. I like that there are different ones. You gonna let me grab you? Okay. Yeah, it really sucks, because this is the game that promised, like, oh yeah, we're bringing back, like, giant multi-man battles, you know? We're bringing back, like, group fights with, like, a bajillion people in them. And I'm like, oh wow, I can't wait to fight all of these people in the group battle. And then it's this game. And this is the game that I have to fight a bunch of enemies with, where all of them are hitting me faster than I could possibly ever hit them. And not because I have low reflexes, but because my moves take so long to happen that by the time I've reached, like, the part of the move that would hit, they've already hit me. Please! Let me do the wall heat action! If only there was a piece of equipment that would make it so that If only there was a piece of equipment that made it so that when I grabbed an enemy, he couldn't break my grab. If only there was a thing like, okay, look, he like trades off. See? He like punches him with that one and then he uses that hand to smack him into the wall. And I like it. It looks good. Yeah. Until you can't see it anymore. Anyway. What's next on the heat action list? What? No, I don't want any soup. I want crab on my yaki.
Yes.
I'm so happy.
I want crab on my yaki.
I want crab on my yucky. I got I got crabs on my yucky. This game will drive you to the depths of insanity. You will get crabs on your yucky for playing like a dragon. Turn around! Oh my god! Come on, please guard. Did he hit me with the backswing? Oh, he's guarding. Get away from me! I don't care, this guy will hit me. What? What? Does this move or not? Okay, that one. Triangles. I think it looks fine on the surface. I can't tell if he knees him there, or elbows him there, or punches him there. Why are they putting more triangles on the screen? What do I do now? What's next?
Hey guys, cool new dub voice, back again. You remember that joke I made way earlier in the video about a certain Nishitani III? I changed my mind.
Please. Wow, that one looked great. I wonder if it's because I could see it! I do like how that one looks a lot. Again, submission art. It's about getting enemies on the ground as quickly as possible. And the fact that he can do it while he's on the ground makes it even better. Plus, I like that it's not just reusing the heat action from Yakuza 3. You know? Where you like... that one
kicks.
Yeah, where he kicks. That one looked really good for the time. It still looks good. That's why they reused it in Judgment. But they changed it again in Lost Judgment, and they didn't reuse it from Lost Judgment here. They made a new one, and I'm so happy. And I wish that they would have brought that kind of care and affection to the whole rest of it. Okay, hang on.
The camera cut's a little too much.
The camera cut? Don't get me started. Please. I have a whole other idea for how heat actions in this series have gotten worse as time went on. I guess I better grab someone first. What's this, a good change from Dragon Ninjas? Here we go. Okay. That one looks fine. I like how he attacks all three different people. All three people are involved in the heat action. If you look at the heat action, you will see that... So he kicks that guy. That guy punches him. That guy is not down yet. The fact that guy's punched Green Guy's already down because he'd already grabbed him before, you know? Yeah. It makes sense. It flows so well. I love how that heat action looks. And there's no triangles. Okay, let me see if someone who wants to kill me. Okay, am I red? I get running heat action. Again, I showed you this earlier. Purple guy, grabbing him. Black shirt guy, purple guy on the ground, fighting black shirt guy. Other purple guy is already on the ground.
Yeah.
Also, he's in a weird angle. Did you see them?
Yeah.
Okay, that might have just been his knees up in the air. But hang on. Let me get rid of all the people that have like similarly colored outfits so that this is like a little bit more easily visible. Because I can forgive people for not knowing this. I didn't notice it for a long time. When I was first starting to play the game. Okay. Here we go. Punching blue guy.
Yeah.
Purple guy kick. Now next up is the other guy. But no, it's purple guy again. Because black shirt guy is already on the ground.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is a replicatable thing, but okay, hang on. Stop. Grab him. Look at this. Purple guy was on the ground. You saw that.
Yeah.
Purple guy was on the ground. I grabbed the guy with green pants, but they did it wrong. They didn't used to do it wrong.
How does that even happen?
I don't know.
I kind of like the idea of it where like a heat action, like where you're trying to go after one enemy and then another one comes up to you and so you gotta kick him away. And so you're trying to take care of him, but then he comes back and to try and take you down again.
Yeah,
so
because enemies don't go down in one hit.
That's to say.
But if it was a 2-man move, that would have been fine. But the thing is, it's a 3-man move.
I know.
Alright, hang on.
It just could have been a little humorous, but
Why isn't it working? Isn't all you have to do is be in extreme heat mode?
you have to have full health.
Assume if I... Let me get out of this cursed place. Everyone, please come close to me!
We gotta get this.
Why? Enemies hang back so far in this game. What's even the point? Here we go. Look, he uses the gadgets. He uses the hornets for all they're good for. Nothing. Like, what was even the point of that? You could have done this anyway. But you know what I love the most about that heat action? It's that literally all he could have done was throw the bombs.
Yeah.
There was no point to using any of the other gadgets because they didn't do anything. All he did was throw a bomb at people that exploded.
So all you had to do was either just like use the hornets to like gather them up while distracting them, or
And
just tie them up.
Yeah, it's so showy. That's what says it the most. Agent style is showy, and for what? There's no reason for it. For lore reasons, agent style shouldn't be flashy.
Yeah.
For martial arts reasons, agent style shouldn't be flashy. For every reason conceivable, agent style shouldn't be flashy. It should be about taking enemies out as quickly as possible. Even with James Bond and other secret agent things, secret agents aren't about doing big, like, gymnastics moves. Let's think of the dumbest secret agent I can imagine in my head right now. Jet Fusion. You know what Jet Fusion wasn't doing?
Yeah.
Doing giant flippy kicks. When he took out enemies in that Jimmy Neutron thing, he punched them.
Yeah.
He did the simplest thing possible that could ensure that the enemy would be taken out. When he used a gadget, the gadget had a specific purpose that was either to circumvent a problem or directly counter something the enemy was doing. He never had a gadget that sole purpose was being used in combat. The gadgets accomplish bigger things than just how do I kill an enemy slightly faster. Gadgets should be a whole new way of interacting with the world. Yeah. And I'm not talking about getting keys off the roof. That is not a new way of interacting with the world. But I've saved the best part for last, which is that the game, in many points, does not work. I've been alluding to a few things I want to mention later over the course of this video. Now's the part where I start addressing them. For starters, there's a lot of elements of agent style that were either designed so poorly or were implemented so poorly that they don't work as intended. You think I'm over-exaggerating? Let's move down the list. Most of the time, Agent's rush style will put grounded enemies into a spin cycle, but sometimes they just won't. Your finishers, on the other hand, will pretty much never hit enemies on the ground. If they're doubled over, lying down, or in the process of getting back up, there's a pretty good chance that none of your attacks will hit the enemy that you're trying to hit. This applies to your sway attacks, too. Not only wasn't this a serious problem in previous games, it isn't even a problem with Yakuza style, making it all the more confusing that they apparently dropped the ball with agents. Speaking of not hitting enemies, the extreme heat combo. It feels like 30% of the time, Kiryu stops right in front of the enemy he's trying to hit, and the kick just sails right past their chin. And I do specify the enemy Kiryu is trying to hit, because when you go into extreme heat, he's the one behind the wheel. It doesn't matter where you're pointing the stick or who you're trying to hit. If Kiryu feels like hitting the guy 10 feet behind the one you're aiming at, he's going to soar right past the dude in front of him winding up a punch, and then try and fail to hit the guy who's just chilling in the background. On a similar note, the second part of Agent's Mortal Reversal also has some trouble with consistently hitting enemies. A massive part of that issue is that the string itself doesn't have a hitbox. It absolutely should, especially for a move that exists for the sake of clearing out enemies in your immediate vicinity. If you can't hit the guy who's about to hit you, then what's even the point of having this move? This isn't the only move with a wonky hitbox, though. You remember that backwards sweep from earlier. In fact, there's a couple other moves in Agent Style with no hitbox at all. If you have an enemy grabbed, you can do some reverse hits to help with crowd control. At least one of them was also in Yakuza 6, when you had an enemy in a chokehold. They've also been in previous games even before that. In Agent Style, these cannot hit enemies. Maybe I'm the one at fault and they're just barely off every time, but for the life of me, I cannot make these moves connect. And I'm convinced that that's due to poor programming, because while these moves don't have hitboxes, there's another thing Agent Style itself doesn't have. Reverse finishers. Remember?
What's up, guys? New cutscene moment. You remember that comment I made about the really bright flashing lights? I changed my mind.
Well, granted, Crane didn't have any in Judgment either, and maybe that would have been worth mentioning earlier. But it and Snake Style were designed with that limitation in mind. I didn't mention it earlier because Agent was not. Because Agent Style actually does have reverse finishers. They just don't work. And not in the same way as the grab counterattack. The code exists in the base game. Modders have re-enabled them in custom movesets. But in the base game, they're inaccessible. For those curious, they're all just the standard reverse sweep, but I'm pretty sure this version of it would have been able to be used as a juggle starter, something that Agent Style really needs more of. Then again, maybe it makes up for the lack of juggle starters and having an infinite. You remember that square button option for grabbed enemies? This is an invulnerable option. You can kick enemies away before they fully enter the grab animation, and you can grab them again before they exit the stumbling animation. Put those two things together, and you can do this with any enemy in the entire game, bosses included. Mix it with Yakuza's running square, and then you can get some decent damage out of it. Also, it's good for positioning an enemy to set up a juggle. But again, this doesn't feel like it was done on purpose. There's a couple more things I could talk about here, such as just the first square hit only coming out when you release the button rather than pressing it because of the implementation of the gadgets, which feels horrible and is very likely to fuck with your muscle memory. But you see what I'm getting at, right? Agent Style is worse than poorly thought out. It's poorly constructed. It's held together with scotch tape and a dream, but this is not Yakuza 5. That shit does not work here, which is funny considering its final boss, but before we reach the conclusion, I'd like to present a little highlights reel of the broken mess that is this game. Not limiting myself to just Agent Style anymore, and once again going back to the live commentary, here is every significant glitch I could find and record in Like a Dragon Gaiden. Let's just take a little perusal through my first playthrough. Oh, hey, it looks nice now. If we...
That's not what this is about, Jack.
As days go by, I'm the secret rings. No one remembers me because I'm one of the 3 Yakuza games. I'm one of the 3 forgotten gems of Yakuza. I hate Snowiest Angie Man with all of my heart and soul. I don't want to turn into Dogs Eating Dogs 6.
That's worse than Mr. Enter.
Anyway, they still haven't upskilled the text on Hungry Tom. Kaito fight. He's Rikia. Wow, it's Rikia. They're not hitting him, by the way. Once the enemy's low enough health, you have to be the one to hit them. Did you see that? Did you see that?
No.
I forgot something else. Full health and low health heat actions.
Oh, yeah.
Why are we still doing full health requirements for heat actions?
Say, that sounds a little silly for full health.
Full health only made sense in Yakuza 2. After that, there's been no reason for it. Whatever. It's Ryu Ga Gotoku. Actually, it's Rikia. Now you'll notice, I have rolled behind him.
Yeah.
I have officially gotten out of the way of his attack, And now that he's attacking the other way, I can launch a counterattack on his behind. Oops! It would seem that in my infinite stupidity, which is the title of Yakuza 9, I have failed to realize that he actually has a hitbox on his behind. Wow. And I am thusly punished for my insanity. This is a picture of children. This is nothing. There was nothing in that video. Look at this. You see, he was facing the other way, but I knew because he was walking towards me.
Yeah.
Look at that. Also, Shishido keeps hitting him, see?
Oh, yeah.
Agent Style! Agent Style! Agent Style! We're back to Agent Style. Look at that. Look at that. None of those attacks hit him. And then I'm back in like super ultra defensive mode until Shishido finishes the fight for me. Agent Style. This one is just stupid, I think. Maybe? Oh, I remember what this is. Noticing that a lot of these clips aren't specific to Agent Style. Game was made in 6 months? I believe it. Oh, this can happen in other Dragon Engine games, so I'm not as mad, but look at this. You see the hit that stunned me?
Yeah.
Has that happened to you? I was charging the hit while it was happening, and then I switched styles so good.
I don't know.
I want the swagger around the castle. I've heard it's become a sort of meme. Let's see what this is. Oh!
Huh.
See what happened there?
I kicked one down.
I broke his guard but hit the guy behind him.
Yeah.
But that's enough for me to do the heat action on him because he also died. This game is fucking broken. Here we go. Here we go. This is that thing I showed you earlier. See? You can tell there's this blonde guy. Oh, here's a really fun one. Let's see if you can figure out what's happening in this clip. I'm trying to do something and it's not working. Can you tell what it is? I couldn't charge my attacks.
Oh.
It wouldn't work. So, rest assured, it's not just Agent Style that's broken.
Yeah.
Oh!
Just say hit you with the force on that one.
Also, again, look how little range this attack has.
Not to say.
He doesn't even fully extend his leg. I think this is the one I was talking about. Kick him, boom. And that's what Agent Style is good for.
Yeah.
It's good for ending the fight with big colors on the screen. There it is. Look at that. Oh, here we go. This is nice. It's really angry. You can just keep doing that.
Oh.
Oh, something else happened right after. Oh, I know what it is. I think I was... Look at this.
Oh. That's how how you found out about that.
That's how I found out about that. That would have worked in Lost Judgment. Do you know why he kicks? It's because his actor is famous for kicking. It's a reference.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. It's neither here nor there, but I love that they're going to prioritize references over making their game work. Literally, it's that Ishin thing. They spent $15 making this cinematic instead of making the game a little bit better.
Yeah.
Also, they can just dodge it like that. Oh. I was angrier about that than I let on. I might have just been sad at that point. Again, 6 months. 6 months to make the game. I believe it. I believe this game was made in 6 seconds. This is where I was still testing the Tiger Drop thing. So yeah, that still doesn't work.
Oh.
I was ready for it! And it still didn't work. I know what this is. I think I've shown you this. Oh. It's like the beginning of the game with the car. Oh, this is where I found this out. They took out the,
Yeah.
Yeah, I showed you this.
It took me out. No more hopping over rail attacks.
Yeah. So much of this game is just things removed from 6. Oh, turn it up, turn it up. This is my, like, ultra mega sync. This is the best thing in this entire game. And I did it. No one else. Turn it up a bit more.
And I did it.
That's like 15. Literally. This is incredible. So yeah, there you go. Every part of that was on rhythm with the song. And that's the fucking saddest part of all this. Is... Oh. That's the saddest part of all this. Is that as fucking janky and broken and shit as this game is, so much effort was put into it. And I know there was. Because it shows. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna beat the fight. Here we go. So much effort went into this game. Again, 6 month time, I believe it. But I also believe they did everything in their power to make this game competent in that time. You can tell with so many of those dynamic sequences, they're supposed to be QTEs, you know? But there's just no button prompts because they didn't have time to animate a losing animation. Especially with the Suruno one, where he's got like that thing next to you. That should be where you're mashing a button. But like, they just didn't have the time or money to do that. But they had the time and money to make that whole sequence on beat with the song and make it work if you time it right. And it's like, wow. I wish the rest of the game got that kind of polish.
What's up, guys? Dub Voice Man, back again. I really do appreciate the effort and scant time that went into the development of Gaiden, but unfortunately, The fact that they put in that time and that effort does not negate the fact that the end result is a lacking piece of software, overcharged, overdone, and overbaked. Unfortunately, I was not able to get enough time to cut that original part out of the video, so I hope that you'll accept this little rephrasing of things I just said as a good addition to the video.
After the little glitch showcase I did, I decided to try and get some footage of one more glitch that I'd encountered more than once, but hadn't managed to capture footage of yet. In order to do that, I had to go into the finale and get to the final part of the construction site battle. Going back into the actual game after explaining and exploring all of the ways in which Agent Style sucks, it only made things worse to get thrown into the biggest group fight in the game, which contains 2 bosses, one of which is always on your ass. Everything I talked about was compounding on top of itself. Visual clutter, whiffed hits, frustrating gadgets. Even now, the game was still glitching out every so often in ways I didn't even know about.
I don't know.
Why didn't they? You saw that! You saw that! Please. Yo! I did it! Did you see that?
Yeah.
It just reinforces what this game is good at. Looking cool. The animations aren't thematically appropriate a lot of the time, and the gadgets aren't very fun to use a lot of the time, but good lord, aren't they stylish. Yakuza Style may be slow and horrible and bad, but those heat trails, they have scales in them, like the Dragon of Dojima, because this isn't Dragon Style, it's Yakuza Style. It's not like a dragon, well, it is like a dragon. It's so obvious that almost everything in this game is tailored to looking good over feeling good. The glitch I was going after is a pretty good way of wrapping up this whole discussion. After finally reaching the last part of the battle, I found a gun user with a long enough health bar. I did the heat action on him, and it still looks great. Dismantling the gun is a good show of dexterity and exemplifies what an agent would do. Remove a powerful weapon that draws attention to the conflict. That would be cool.
2 guns, bitch!
Yeah. This move doesn't actually disarm the gun user, it just spawns a broken gun in Kiryu's hands so he can drop it afterwards. This isn't even style over substance, this is style over function. And that's what Agent Style is. That's what this whole game is. Style over function. Okay. Hi! Post-Summit Maxwell Painwell here. We're about to get Gaiden again.
Now, with the benefit of hindsight... Oh, Dub Voice back again. Welcome. With the benefit of hindsight, we can now tell that most of the things I was predicting regarding Pirate Yakuza were all correct. However, in the light of this now outdated video, we feel that it would be best if you were to mentally replace every instance of the words pirate or Majima Pirate Game instead with 0 or Yakuza 0 Director's Cut. If you do this, you'll find that things continue making a little bit more sense than you may have otherwise expected. Truly interesting how life works out that way.
Not Gaiden 2, not a game similar to it, but the exact same thing. Ignore Majima and the pirate shit, and what else is there here? A side story focusing on a legacy character in an outrageous and silly role, with one legacy style and one new style, a floating minigame hub, character customization, shitty live action stuff that's gonna make the game take up 100 gigabytes of space. It's literally the same thing. But I'm gonna predict it now. I think this will be worse than Gaiden. Story-wise, whatever, I couldn't care less if I tried, but if my prediction is correct, they're going to have learned all of the wrong lessons from Gaiden. Mad Dog Style will be horrible to play with for some reason or another, and Sea Dog Style is going to be a gimmicky mess that probably doesn't even work. I know I can't stop the worst idiots from pre-ordering this shit, but if I can convince even one person watching this video to think twice about doing that, then I'm going to do that. Take it from someone who pre-ordered the first Gaiden and was absolutely, monumentally let down by what that game turned out to be. Please, 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 for the love of this series, Wait for the game to come out first, and watch some gameplay. If it looks like flashy nonsense that would be no more fun to play than watch, then don't reward RGG Studios for dangling keys in your face. Please, I am begging you, be a smart and informed consumer. The game is not peak yet. It's probably not even done. Don't treat it like it's out and good. We can't confirm that about any game, much less one of these from this series of all things. And it's this toxic positivity that I am trying to stop, or at least prevent some of. So again, please, don't pre-order this game. Anything more I could say would be repeating myself, so I'm cutting it off there. Back to the outro.
Well, folks, the video might be over, but don't forget about the brand new multiplayer mode, specially introduced in this edition of the video. You see, all you have to do is find a friend or three, sit down with them, and watch this video. That is the multiplayer mode. You can't do that on the original, but you can with this one. Aren't I just a generous old softy for allowing you the privilege of doing the thing you were already doing, but with some friends nearby? Wow. Anyway, back to the outro.
Thank you very much for watching, and to that one guy who was itching to get a video about Gaiden, I hope that this does your heart good. For now, anyway. Gaiden is still on my chopping block, and you may be wondering why I didn't just save this video to talk about in a longer, more comprehensive video about Gaiden as a whole, but for one, I don't want to spend multiple hours talking about this game in one sitting, and for two, I talked about way too much in way too much depth in this video to comfortably fit it into a video about Gaiden as a whole. Yakuza style isn't nearly as frustrating or broken as Agent is, at least in my book. So if I wanted to put that in a longer Gaiden video, I could have, but I felt that this was better suited as its own individual project. Plus, if I had to condense all my points about Agent into a 5 to 10 minute rant, it certainly wouldn't have been enough depth or explanation to get my views across to those who would still enjoy the style even after sitting through this whole video. Which, if you did, and you still do, good on you. You're allowed to do that. I don't want to ruin anything for anyone on this channel. Like I said in my last video, which you can watch here, I just want to bring some new perspectives to this series. It's a critical one for now, but I've got a couple ideas for positive videos in the future. Next video won't take nearly as long to make, whether it be positive or negative. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care of yourself. Oh, wait, actually, Ishin Kiwami has the worst combat in the series. I forgot about that one. Just like everybody else!